A business already established in the Central Maine area cut the ribbon today on an expansion. Central Maine Motors Auto Group announced that they bought the Ray Haskell Ford dealership in Oakland just over a month ago. The new owners announced a gathering celebrating the dealership, which can be found on Kennedy Memorial Drive. The Ford dealership joins several dealerships that the company owns around Central Maine. The family business is celebrating its 90th year and credits one main thing to their success.
The focus has always been about people. It's always been about taking care of people. It's always about looking for the best in people. It's always about investing in people. It's always about giving people the empowerment to do what's right by their customer or their family. It's a very family-oriented business, and that's kind of been our secret sauce over the generations of employees that we've had, as well as the generations of customers that we've served, and the greater community, not just Waterville, Winslow, Fairfield, and Oakland, but the state of Maine as a whole.
Staff also mentioned they liked specific dealerships due to the location of their other stores as well as the Ford brand itself.